Here we are. All right. Welcome back to the Protocol Town Hall, a periodic guest talk series focused on protocols and protocol research. In today's guest talk, we will be speaking with author Qiufan about protocols and science fiction. Our next town hall will be a guest talk with Benjamin Funk on June 19th, so join us for that. You can find more about the Summer of Protocols, the program calendar for our guest talk series, as well as more about the protocol kit at summerofprotocols.com. And so now I'm going to hand it off to our special guest introducer today, Hazel from the GCC, to introduce Qiufan for us. Hazel.
Hey, thank you, Josh, and hello, everyone. Hello, Qiufan. So I'm Hazel. I'm the team lead of GCC. So it's short for a Global Chinese Community of Universal Digital Commons. So I know it's a very quite long name. So it's my great pleasure to be here today at the SOP Town Hall. And so when I first learned about the Sum of Protocols project, and I decided to work with Josh team and then Cash, to introduce it to the Chinese community. I've kept asking myself a question about, so what is protocol? I believe that many of you have been asking this question. So because GCC, like we're a very young organization, we were established last summer, and we're the first and maybe the only digital public goods found in the global Chinese community. And we're talking about how to productize ourselves. So because by product like CCC, like I think this will allow us to transcend being a fleeting, single entity, found that will only make a limited impact within a capacity. So instead, we can establish an expandable and transferable mechanism capable of sustainably founding the digital public goods. And I think that's the main reason why we decided to support some of protocols, and also why we decided to try to introduce it to the Chinese community, is that protocols are always very invisible in this world, and which means the people who are working it, who are thinking about that, build them, don't get enough attention and support that they deserve. So that's why DCC aims to change. So we want to use this economic incentive to bring the visibility to your efforts, to reward you, and also inspire more people to join in. So that's about the GCC, and that's why we want to support the some of protocols. And it's quite a coincidence that I first met Qiufan in 2018 in Wuzhen, in China, in China. He probably doesn't remember me because at that time he was the guest speaker of a conference named the World Blockchain Conference, I remember. And at that time I was just a journalist. And after the event, I started to read his novel, try to search him online, and I read his first science fiction novel named The Waste Tide, which is about an island of electronic waste in an era of globalization. So I would think this is a metaphor for our times. And after that, I often read some news about him online, about he's keep writing about his short novels and keep winning a lot of awards in China and outside China. And 6 years have passed, and the world has changed so much. So I'm really looking forward to hearing Qiufan's latest thoughts on technology, on the future, and the world, especially after ChatGPT, because I know he's that's a long novel. It's not a short novel collections. It's named AI in 2041, and which is called working with Kai-Fu Lee about the life in the 2041 and about the after the existence of maybe the super AI. So that's one thing I'm really interested, and I believe that many of you will be interested in this area. So I won't take much any of your time. So let's welcome Qiufan to share his insights and share his views on the science fiction as a protocol. So thank you.
All right, take it away, Qiufan.
Okay. Now you might be able to see my screen. So thanks, Josh. Thanks, Hazel, for having me to this stage. Thanks, Ethereum Foundation. So I'm into crypto. Even just hanging around with people and communities and events, and I've been asking myself, what is protocol indeed as well? So today I might gonna give you a broadened understanding of what is protocol. So I might gonna give my own definition by the end of this sharing. So pretty much looking forward to have deeper conversation with all of you. Let me try to, full screen. So is it work right now? The full screen.
I'm not seeing
since
a full screen. I am only seeing the.
Okay. No problem. So maybe I can go with this because I couldn't see, simultaneously myself and also with the screen sharing. So I guess I'm good with good to go like this. So yeah, I'm gonna skip my introduction since Hazel already did. So yeah, technology always. Harari, the author of *Sapien: A Brief History of Mankind*, he mentioned this in magazine. He said, like, today science fiction is the most important artistic genre in our time, obviously, because we are like celebrating a lot of breakthrough on technology, and also we're confronting a lot of challenges, even potentially risk upon the time, because all this acceleration on AI, on quantum computation, on fusion energy, and all this climate change basically will definitely change our physical world and also our consciousness world. So I'm gonna talk about like what is science fiction really. So there's a lot of like broad definition across time, and from different perspectives they all have their own terminology to describe what is science fiction. So I just pick up the shortest one, which seems quite fit. Is the branch of literature that deals with human responses to changes in the level of science and technology. Why did I put the words in color here? Because it's all like questionable. Like, we all know that science fiction now is way beyond literature. It's more into film and TV and games, even installation and interactive experience. And also we talk about human. Now we're dealing with AI agents and multi species communication in a way. So I think in the future we might gonna decentralize this kind of human narratives into a broader world. And also we talk about science and technology, but back in the day, when you think about mythology, it's also a way how we imagine the world and imagine how we interact with the world. So the boundary of science and technology is always shifting along with our understanding of the world. So this level of science and technology is also like questionable. The mysticism today might be the science and technology tomorrow. So the key of, or the essence of science fiction to me is always like this: change. Think about the book of change in ancient China, I Ching. It's like a mathematical, explanation. Is like a simulation of the world while using all the 64 hexagram to predict the future and to predict whatsoever question we raised to the system. So think about like how human responds and react to change. It might be so fascinating that we are slower, like evolved physically and mentally compared with the technology environment around us. So recently, the Three Body Problem TV series from Netflix was becoming a big hit globally. And also there's a different version from Tencent from China. So two different interpretation of the trilogy of the novel itself. But to me, it's like another version of Frankenstein's monster complex. We always talk about this kind of fear and favor of something totally distinguished from our own kind, no matter from ancient caveman time, from the colonialization of Colombo, or now the latest version of the others is AI. So we always picture or portray AI or robots in the way like behave, sharing the emotions, talk and think and feel like humans. But is that necessary? So let's take a look back in time, like how this kind of conceptualization of the idea thinking machine and also like working machine back in the day. It's so fascinating to see how this contradictory and sometimes paradoxical sensation and conceptualization happening all around the time. And also in us to reflect on MR's role. We always, overestimate the short-term effect of one technology while we underestimate the long-term effects. So when we talk about the latest version of the otherness, I used to work for Google and Baidu for about 10 years. So I tried to do the thing even before the hype. So back in 2017, when the year Google launched Transformer and published the very famous article, Attention is All You Need, that was the year I started to build my own language model. It's not even large, it's very small, and using all my writing material to train the model and using CNN, convolutional neural network, and LSTM, long short-term memory mechanism to do the modeling and training and fine-tuning. And I built this so-called like Chen Qiufan 2.0 writing bots, collaborating with me, and even won me a literature prize in China, slightly ahead of the Nobel Prize winner, Mr. Mo Yan. So because back in 2018 and 19, there was a official organization, a Writers Association from Shanghai. So they hosting an event, a award using AI jury to run the score for each one of the short stories published on a major literature magazine in China. So surprisingly, my piece, The State of Trance, which collaborated with AI, got the highest score among all like over thousands of like 1,000 pieces from very established writers. So it was so fascinating and unbelievably like surreal that one AI algorithm even is written in different language from totally different structure and different criteria for sure, somehow recognize another story co-written with another AI to be the best. So this all like also pushed me to think further about what is creativity in the age of generated AI and what is already. I upgraded my model and I inviting more writers and bigger, data sets and bigger team to do the thing. But suddenly I found that, okay, this is something cybernetically also changing the way I think and write as well. So it's like a winner back in the day put it, a feedback loop. So I training with my input of data, but its output of writings also like feeding me, like changing me constantly. And this kind of, loosely connected like symbiosis of collaboration is definitely something I didn't expect it before. So at certain point, I feel that it's not me who using the machine to work for me, but the other way around. And then it came the Chat GPT moment. This is the day when OpenAI launched the app, and coincidentally, it is my birthday. So we share the same birthday. So I always joking about it and said, maybe I'm the ChatGPT from the future. And just I got my embody, humanoid shape. So this large language model thing make us to think even deeper into the very fundamental question, like what is cognition? Is computation equivalent to the process of cognition? And what if in the future we couldn't perceive any message or information rather through all these models? So is that fair to say model is message compared with 100 years ago when McLuhan said like medium is the message? And last but not the least, what if when simulation can give out a more precise and more effective answer to predict the reality? Can we say that simulation is equivalent with reality, which echo to Elon Musk's famous, hypothesis? And it brings even more question about all this, very confusing terms. AI, artificial intelligence, means the intelligence from man-made, but is that all real? Are we building something like before we even understand what it is? And from engineering perspective, of course, the infrastructure, the modeling, the fine-tuning, the data sets are from human. But what is real intelligence here is something called emergence, right? So, and even further, what is consciousness here? So every layer of the questions basically reflect on one simple fact that we human beings couldn't see things, we couldn't think about things, we couldn't understand anything beyond our own framework. So my guess is, yeah, we make it all wrong on what is intelligence. Intelligence could be something universally exist on anything. It just varies on the levels. So think about like cats and pets, they can learn, right? They can interact. They can make you feel some sensation and emotions. So of course we can say that is intelligence. But when you think about a stone, a tree, something totally like not lively, but it's also constantly interact with the environment, with the air, with the water, with all this vibration from deeper space, all this frequency in an invisible way. So protocol, maybe in a way, just beyond our spectrum of human beings. But on this question, I think science fiction provides a very useful lens, a very diverse lens to help us to see beyond human. I list and compare several novels together with academic works here. So first one of my favorite from Peter Watts, Blind Side. It's a novel that challenges traditional notions of consciousness and the nature of intelligence. Set in 21st century, the story follows a crew of humans and transhumans sent to investigate a mysterious alien structure. So Watts used this narrative to explore the idea that consciousness might not be the pinnacle of evolutionary development, but rather evolutionary byproducts. So he presents characters and aliens that operate highly effectively without consciousness, suggesting alternative models of intelligence that are purely reactive or based on distributed, decentralized process. While like Kathleen Hales, she's the legendary, pioneer of feminism and also posthumanism. Like her work, like How We Become Posthuman, was one of the must read if you study, posthumanism. So her Unthought delves into the realm of cognitive science by distinguishing between consciousness and cognition, emphasizing that much of cognition occurs non-consciously. So she argues that non-conscious is neither inaccessible nor mystic, but is measurable, vast, and an active part of our daily processing of information and decision-making. So she extends the concept of cognition to technical system and artifacts, just like mobile phone, suggesting that our technological environment participate in human cognition, blurring the lines between human cognitive process and machine operation. So both of their works challenge the centrality of consciousness in defining intelligence. So they both invite us to consider what it means to be intelligent and how intelligence can be manifested across different entity and system. So the second, also one of my favorite, Ursula Le Guin, a short story vaster than empire and most low. So she talked about a crew of human astronaut scientists who sent out from the empire of Earth to an alienated planet, and where all these crews feel primitive fear, but the fear was not from themselves, but from the whole planet. The whole planet was a collective intelligence form of trees and forests, which was accidentally proved by the research, I believe, was almost like 10 years ago. It's called Wood Wide Web, that it shows the evidence that all these roots under the ground of the trees, basically they transmitting all this materials, information, and even multi-module information and energy, and it create a massive web under the ground. So basically the trees can talk to each other, even like talk to the fungi and talk to some other species. So it's like the multi and interspecies communication network out there, but beyond humans' perspective. And this one is also a very famous sci-fi novel, A Fire Upon the Deep, from Vinch, back in the 90s. And the novel is set in a galaxy divided into various zones of thoughts. So the unthinking depth, the slow zone, the beyond, and the transcend. So these zones restrict or enhance the ability to develop advanced technologies or sophisticated forms of intelligence. So one of the most compelling aspects of Vinch's portrayal of intelligence is through the times. So the times is an alien species whose individuals are not singular organism, but rather groups of 4 to 8 members that together form a single coherent mind through ultrasonic communication. So this collective intelligence is a profound exploration of embodied intelligence as well, where cognition is not localized within a single body, but distributed across multiple bodies. So each member of a time pack acts like a neuron in the brain, with the pack itself functioning as a cognitive entity. So their intelligence and personality are emergent properties of a group dynamics. So heavily influenced by the physical spacing and coordination between members. So the technology and society reflect their collective nature as well. So their devices, vehicles, and communication methods are designed for beings that experience the world as a chorus of inputs and outputs rather than a singular perspective. While Michael Levin, a professor from Tufts University, a developmental biologist, has pioneered intriguing research in the field of bioelectricity and its implications for developmental biology and regenerative medicine. So his work fundamentally explores how cells communicate via electrical signals to regulate growth and repair, which can dramatically impact our understanding of biological form and function. So he proposes that bioelectric states function as a kind of language that cells use to coordinate activities across the whole body. So this communication is so crucial for morphogenesis, which is the biological process that causes an organism to develop its shape, and for healing. For instance, manipulating bioelectric signals can lead to a regeneration of limbs, for example, frogs, suggesting a profound level of control over biological form and function through electricity. So it suggests that the cognitive process can be non-centralized and that a kind of intelligence can be attributed to systems traditionally not considered cognitive, like the cell. So in an embodied and collective way. So think about how all of those cells create this protocol across the body, even in different function and shape. So all these insights broaden our conceptual framework for understanding what intelligence might look like, both on Earth and beyond, and challenges the notion of consciousness and intelligence as solely the domains of traditionally recognized nervous system. So yeah, so when talking about the AI 2041, we're using 10 story to make the best guess of how AI human symbiosis would look like in the next 20 years. But we always guess it wrong when we try to get into a technical details. For example, there's one deepfake story in the book. We still imagine GAN, like back in the year 2021 when the book got published. But the next year, we got diffusion model. So we got something more. So the moment I saw the news, I said, shoot, we made it wrong. But it always happened in science fiction. But when we get it right, when the deepfake becomes a bigger thing in across different, social media, misinformation, political rumors, and it become a narrative war. Basically, right now you can see it happen here and there. So this is what science fiction do. We guess it wrong technically, while we get it right on humanity. And think about, like, basically we see things, we make the speculation, we try to sum it up, and we bring up with new ideas like scaling law, like complexity. But this always brings us back to the existence itself. Like, all these laws and principles are there for billions of years. They just exist. So are there some fundamental principles like simultaneously happening on all the layers? And it makes us to think about what is not emergence, basically. So if you follow Stephen Wolfram's recent project, so he basically using mathematical simulation to reproduce the emergence from bottom up, from math to physics to chemistry to biology to psychology to sociology and on and on. So I think this is so fascinating to make us reflect on, like, how naive and how short-sighted we human beings to look into each one of the layers and try to reduce all of these phenomena into pieces and try to study each one of them and to shape an integral perspective of the world. And again, science fiction, like Doom, it's a good movie. I like it, but also it shows us, like, the imagination of science fiction sometimes always limited to the time when it was created, but somehow it transcends through time. For example, the spice here reflects to the metaphor of oil back in the 60s, last century, from the Middle East, but now it become the new metaphor of computation power. Even in the novel, is not functioning on silicon-based intelligence, but carbon-based intelligence, like human brain. It's like a hallucination on human beings, but somehow it can navigate through the space, through the long distance traveling. So this also, it shows, like, the originality the essence of science fiction is something beyond the plot, something beyond the superficial elements of technology and anything, but something like deeper, prototype, structuralized in the theme itself. So it's like we always asking this question, like Copernican revolution is happening from time to time, and now we are confronting the latest version is the AI one. Keep challenging our notion of intelligence and consciousness, and it always brings us back to the question of who we are, how we get here, and where are we going. So this is so profound that our civilization is always try to find some directions. We learn from evolution, from Darwinism. We try to point a certain direction to the society, to the mass. But does evolution really have some directions? So maybe we can also bring it back to the fundamental level. Like we need diversity for sure, because without diversity, there's no adaptation, there's no competing, so there's no natural selection. So first, we need diversity. And second, we need intersubjectivities, which is always ignored because there's no one single species can evolve by itself. It always interacts with the others, also together with the environment. So this intersubjectivity not only happen on the level of symbiosis, but endosymbiosis. And if it's intersubjectivity, so it's supposed to be decentralization, right? So, but we human beings, we don't think in that way because we're so dominant on the planet right now. So we think everything should be centralized. We think and evaluate everything from our own perspective. So let's look back in time. So see what's really happening. So this is all hypothesis, this is all theoretical, but at a certain point you can see the structure and the train, but behind all these phenomena. So like 4 billion years ago, the very first cell or the first generation cell is called protokaryota. Is like two different structure, two different organisms. One swallow, the other is not eating. It still maintain its likeness. So, and its functions and structures. So it's like coexisting in one structure. So it's so fascinating that how we imagine the production of membrane lipids, molecules that separate the internal environment from the external environment. So the first generation of cells, protokaryotes, brought together two compartments, one from the world of RNA metabolism, the cytoplasm, and the other from the world of RNA genome, the nucleus. So these cells are phagocytic, capable of engulfing everything they encounter, and thus spread metabolic innovation very rapidly. Subsequently, a variant of RNA, widely known as DNA, prompted the grouping of genes within chromosomes. So this is what happened 4 billion years ago. And while 2.5 billion years ago, the same thing happened. So archaea swallowed another bacterial cell, and which became eukaryotes, and it was the origin of all the plants and animals, and including human ourselves from. So this is the ancestor of all the living beings we now known on the planet. And think about how this happened when 3 million years ago, when Homo sapien learned to use the tools to communicate, to reconcile with the external environment, to using all this like energy and materialize the resources and feeding itself. So this again is the symbiosis process. And think about language, think about internet, and now it's AI. So AI, we can consider it as carbon-based intelligence plus silicon-based intelligence. So the question is, can we make it happen again? Like no matter it's like symbiosis or endosymbiosis. And it requires certain level of empathy for sure, in my opinion, because if we still hold on to the old perspective or mindset of alienated, of hostile, of, treating others just like a breaking, evil twins. So there's no way we can make this conversation and symbiosis happen. And again, this is what I call it Tao. So it's Taoism and also decentralized autonomous organization. And Taoism basically is from ancient Chinese philosophy, and is talking about like all these entities, all these sentient beings is basically equal, and we should embrace it. We should lose part of ourselves. We should unlearn what we've been taught for long, and to unite with others and then become oneness. And I'll get back to science fiction as protocol. How so? From certain levels. One is science fiction basically can counterbalance the cognitive asymmetry, right? So from linear to non-linear, from short term to long term, from history to future, from local to universal, from human-centric to dehuman-centric, everything. So science fiction gives us a different lens to see into reality and counterbalance all this bias and this information. And second, to inspire new aesthetics or metaphorical minds. Think about how we use dreams, drama, theater, films, games to describe life or describe the world. And now we have the latest version of metaphor is like simulation. So each one evoke new impulse to seeking for more. And third, to motivate individuals to participate in the future, which is so important. Think about in the climate changing world. So how we leverage science fiction to educate, to elaborate the understanding of what is science fiction, what is climate change, what is correlation behind all these phenomena. It's a massive, complex system on the earth. And if we couldn't help the younger generation to understand what is going on and what is so important to make the change, we couldn't make the motivation, we couldn't make the world safe at all. So science fiction here play a very important role. And what is protocol? Or I put it as the capability to integrate and reconcile heterogeneous system, which means two different structure, two different function system can be incorporated, integrate, and living together, and they function very well. So each one of them becomes stronger, become more adaptive. So I think this is what happened on biology, on technology, and on consciousness as well. So science fiction could be a very useful protocol to help us to bridge different kind of belief systems, to help us to see through the boundaries and borderlines of different understanding of the world, and to make this happen through storytelling. So finally, I want to end it with 3 quotes about the future. One is from William Gibson. The future is already here, not just evenly distributed. It describes a very late capitalistic perspective of the future. While the second from Ursula Green, she was a Taoist, and she said the future is already full. It's much older and larger than our present, and we are the aliens in it. So it means we have to compete with all these ancient and traditional mindsets and values from the past. And we have to earn, we have to fight for the space in the future. And last is from me, the book from the AI 2041, from me and Kai-Fu. So I said that with every future we wish to create, we must first learn to imagine it. So this is talking about the belief, the consensus, the protocol to understand what is real and what is yet to imagine here, shows the ability of imagination is not taken for granted. It has some process, it has some methodology. It also requires certain kind of protocol to break through all these boundaries. So this is what I want to share with you today, and hopefully it can start some reflection and conversation from today. And I love to hear more from what your takes, and how can we make this a better protocol, a more practical action plan in the future. So thank you all for today.
Thank you so much, Qiufan. That was a great talk. Got some good conversation happening in the YouTube comments here. One of the things that seemed really poignant was the definition that you had come up with for what a protocol is. During our last cohort of the Summer of Protocols, there was a lot of argument and discussion and just general conversation around what the definition of a protocol is, and I think you might have hit it as closely as I think we might have come to. So great job there. Yeah, a few questions from the YouTube comments here. One from Timber asking, can sci-fi be seen as like a rapid prototyping for social protocols in response to like technological progress?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like we examine a lot of very extreme scenarios along with the technological breakthrough. Like there's one series of anthologies I highly recommend from MIT Press. It's called 12 Tomorrow. So each one of them collecting, like, basically you can use the term hot sci-fi to describe, like Kim Stanley Robinson and all these big names. So each one have a specific theme, like climate change, like AI, like whatsoever. So each one of them will ask them to imagine from very specific future scenario on technology advancement, and then like reverse engineering what the society, what the culture, what this, individuals response to that kind of change. And also remember that not all the society, not all these classes, their response as same, right? So because they have different understanding and different accessibility to technology. So I think this is create a very useful landscape like that we can put different kind of scenarios into the spectrum and help us to have a more completed and integral and more diverse you know understanding of what the future might look like. So this is, I think, yeah, I'm doing the same thing as well. I like sci-fi, like climate fiction is the latest trend in the recent 10 years. So I think people using different storytelling to examine, to imagine, to speculate what if the temperature, the global temperature, like reach like getting 1.5 Celsius degree higher, and what if the sea level uprise by 10 or 20 meters, and all of those are very good example like how sci-fi can be seen as prototyping this society.
Yeah, definitely agree. And just its ability to show people a picture of what a potential future might look like, it can really help people to kind of embody some of those things that might want to change in the present. Another question from Natasha asking, how do you balance research with imagination? When does research help your creativity and when does it block it?
That's a very, very good question. You know what? Yesterday, I just wrapping up my novel. It took me almost 2 years to finish it. And one of the key reasons why it took me so long, because I did too much research. And you know what? Because everything just keeps changing in the science community, all these new discoveries, all these new theories, it's just nonstop, like popping up. So sometimes it will give you excuses to, oh, wait a minute, I need to dig deeper into this problem. I need to understand more about it. But it's endless process. It stop you from put it down. So I think you need to have a hard stop at certain point that, oh, I should stop thinking about how like AI, like how all this large language model or like generative AI or whatsoever functioning in the future, and I just use my imagination. And at certain point I feel it's more relevant because nobody knows how exactly all this technological passes might evolve in the maybe next month. But using storytellings, using even methodic mythological way sometimes is even better, because it we still reading the etc from thousands of years ago. We still reading Bible. Even like not all of us believe in all this phenomenons and miracles would be true, but still it has the power. So this is the power of imagination. So now I sometimes feel like it's very difficult to keep the balance, but at certain point you need a deadline. Deadline is the ultimate forces to push you stop doing research and get down your as and start writing. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I just finished Waste Tide maybe a few days ago, and really appreciated the different genres of protocols that kind of emerged in the book. And science fiction is often used as like a lens to examine and critique existing systems and envisioning new systems. Are there any particular protocols from that particular book that you hope to see in the world at some point in time?
Yeah, I've been thinking about religions, recently, because religions basically is oldest, protocol since the birth of human beings, right? It's still working, it's still functioning pretty well, sometimes too well, So I've been thinking about how all of those protocols resonate to the nature of human beings deeply, and how all these responses and interaction happen simultaneously across the globe. And yeah, I think science fiction at certain level have share a lot of similarity with religions. Think about, like, there's recently a paper research on how science fiction can trigger sense of sublime at certain level. Is quantification research on psychology, and I think that's fascinating to think about it in that way. So
Very nice. All right. Well, I think we're ready to wrap up here. I appreciate you taking some time out of your morning to chat with us, Qiufan, and it was a very insightful talk. And thank you so much for your time.
thank you, Josh. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll see you all next week at the normal time, Wednesday, June 19th, for a talk with Benjamin Funk. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.